Hello everyone and welcome back to Data Acquisition and Management, our GIS class here at PCC. This is a short orientation video for tutorial 1 in which you're going to learn to design a geodatabase, okay? So for tutorial 1, this is going to be in the modules section. It's going to open after you finish module 1. And I just want to share some instructions for this tutorial or this lab on designing a geodatabase, just to orient you so that you get you get a broad idea of what's going on. For this lab, we are not going to be working in ArcMap, okay? Excuse me, we're not going to be working in ArcGIS Pro software. We are going to be working in Excel because we are just designing a geodatabase. But it's important to have a little bit of context as to why you are doing this lab, this tutorial in Excel, before you move on to executing it in ArcGIS Pro software, okay? So this is going to take a little bit of explanation just so that you know what's going on in this lab. In the past, I have done this tutorial and students get a little bit confused as to what we're doing and what is going on. And why we are filling out an Excel sheet to design our geodatabase. Because usually when we are working in a GIS project, we begin to work directly from the software and from the data that we have, okay? But I just want to give you a little bit of context so that you know why we're doing this and why we are starting in our textbook, why we are starting tutorial 1 with Excel sheets. Okay, so if you have been working in GIS for a while, you will know that the data type, the file type that we use is called a shapefile. And usually a shapefile in our software is going to appear as a little green box. Depending on the type of data you have, it can be a point, a line, or a polygon for vector data. And the icon is going to be slightly different, but they usually look green when they are standalone shapefiles, okay? A shapefile is basically the first type of data that we used when GIS was new. And whenever we go look at our data, so I'm going to, today we can look at our data through the catalog pane. However, in older versions of GIS, when it was a desktop version, the catalog was a standalone application. Today, catalog has been incorporated into the main user interface of the software. And it was also done in the newer versions of ArcGIS Desktop. But today, it's basically one more window or one more pane that you open, right? So let's look at this, at our data structure whenever you connect your folders. So this is our health study that we did on obesity in Illinois. And when we look at our data folder, we only see standalone files like Illinois median income shapefile or Illinois median income layer. However, when we look at this data in our folder here using Windows Explorer, so I logged into this folder where we have the same data, right? So here you can see this is the data folder. So back here it's the data folder, and then you can also see we have the health study geodatabase. So here's the health study geodatabase. A shapefile is read in ArcGIS software as one file. However, in Windows, as you can see, a shapefile is composed of at least 6 different files. A shapefile, a projection file, a database file, and a few other components. So what has been going on for a long time is that oftentimes whenever you needed to transfer data, if you were working directly from Windows, you have to make sure that all the components of the file were transferring. And it's not recommended that you do any type of data management of GIS files directly through Windows Explorer. So if we look, for example, here at the Illinois food deserts, right? We look at Illinois food deserts. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 files and one more with the Adobe Illustrator, which is the layer file that we have here, food tester file, right? In any case, as you can see, this can become very unruly and get out of control when you are working with a lot of shape files. So to get around this issue, what Esri, the software developer, did was to create a way in which the software can read data only as one file, and we organize our data through catalog, right? We can view catalog also as a standalone catalog window. And this is when you're doing heavy editing or data management. You can work directly from catalog, for example, right? And so here we have the same information that we had here in our on the window pane, right? Except working through the catalog window, it opens up another window here like you would a map or a layout or a catalog. These days, we can do most of our small data management work within the catalog pane, okay? And so, as you can see, we have 2 types of data files that we're working with now. We are working with sometimes standalone shape files and tables, like this database table, right? But in ArcGIS Pro, one of the aspects of the new software is that every time you create a new project in ArcGIS Pro, the software automatically creates a geodatabase. And this is basically Esri telling you that they want you to save your files in the geodatabase format. The geodatabase format is proprietary to Esri. Over the last several years, it has also been opened up for other GIS softwares like QGIS. But whenever we work with geodatabases, that word specifically, we're talking about Esri products, okay? And if you notice, the files look different. The shape files are in green, and we have a similar icon. But once you integrate items or files into a geodatabase, right, these are known as feature classes, which is the newer name that we use to refer to shapefile. We refer to them as a feature class when they are in a geodatabase. Sometimes we can use feature class and shapefile interchangeably, but we're phasing out the shapefile because it had a lot of limitations in terms of how you could manage it. And so Esri has now stressed the shift to the geodatabase because we can do a lot more things in a geodatabase, right? From the geodatabase, we can already add new types of a feature data set, a feature class. We can add a table. We can add relationship classes, raster data sets for that satellite imagery, mosaic data sets for large imagery files. And when you're working with within your feature classes, you could also add new information to them. You can manage this data, you can view it, you can export it, etc. You can go more into the data design and you can add domains, you can add new fields to these feature classes, you can add subtypes, which is what we're going to be learning about in this class and through our textbook, focus on geodatabases in ArcGIS Pro. The big focus on geodatabases is that this is now the basic data management structure, and any data that you bring into your GIS program or your GIS project, you are going to want to manage it through the geodatabase, okay? It is a lot more flexible than working with standalone shapefiles because there can be too many. And so within one of the pros, for example, of working within the geodatabase is that you can add what is known as a feature data set. And all the features that are related can be added. Say feature class data set name. We're just going to make something up. Illinois obesity. Right. You don't have to do this in your computer. Okay, I'm just okay, I can't, there's no spaces, so let's the software gets a little finicky whenever we add spaces, so don't add spaces to file names or paths, okay, because the path gets broken. That's just one of the issues of working with software. It has its own kinks. Okay, so Illinois obesity is now a feature data set. And all the data sets that are related to the same geographic location, like Illinois, we could add them here, for example, right? We could just drag and drop, for example. Yes, the spatial extent does not match, I understand, but we would just add a drag and drop into this feature data set, okay? We're going to be working through these, how a geodatabase allows you to expand into it and add more data. Okay, for now, I just want you to know that what tutorial 1-1 and tutorial 1-2, what we're doing is we are designing this geodatabase. Because if you look into the geodatabase, we often look at the attribute table and all we see is the rows and columns, right? The features and the attributes that they have. What we're going to do in this class is understand how these features, how they are created, how we design that this field is going to be a number, or that this, so this is a number, this is a zip code, right? This is a population number. Some of these numbers are just like text. For example, a zip code is not a number that you can multiply or you can divide, right? But population is something that we can use to make field calculations within our data, right? And if you notice, if you use more than 2 words in these field attribute names, they're connected by an underscore. Right, so as you can tell, the software does not deal well with spaces, and not just GIS, but many other forms of software can't. The data links get broken, and the software gets confused because it can't find the exact attributes that you're looking for. Sometimes when there are spaces, right? So pay attention to those little things that sometimes can get frustrating with software. In any case, so let me finish this walkthrough then by going to, so just as I was mentioning, we're going to be looking into how these attributes are created. Let's go into data design, and then let's go into domains, right? So this is what we're going to be working with, creating and expanding these components and designing them first in Excel. The reason why we're designing them first in Excel is so that once we create our new project and our new geodatabase, we have already thought ahead of time about how the data is going to be structured so that we have less errors when we begin to work with our projects, okay? So let me close this ArcGIS project. So you're going to begin here for this tutorial. So here's a few instructions for this tutorial. The short video that I'm recording is going to be here, so make sure you watch this. If you're watching this tutorial, you're already starting well. And then what you're going to do is you're going to get the instructions. So if you already have your textbook, Chapter 1 is available for free by Esri. If you don't have the textbook, you can download it here. If you already have your textbook, then we're just going to be going off Chapter 1, Tutorial 1-1 instructions, okay? If you don't have the textbook, you can click here and you can download the instructions. Please take your time reading. This chapter has a lot of text, as you can see, okay? Part of this is because it's trying to explain to you what's going on. So I've also tried to explain to you what we're doing, what the bigger picture is. And then when you go to download the tutorial data, you're going to come to this page here in ArcGIS online or ArcGIS.com. You're going to download the data, and this is what you're going to see. In your downloads folder, you're going to see the tutorials. So you're going to double click, and you're going to drag this folder out into your desktop or into the folder for Geography 113. And this is what you're going to get when you open this folder. you're going to see geodatabase design forms. We're going to work off the Excel document. The geodatabase design forms in PDF format, these are in case you would print these forms and then you would work from them. We're going to work directly from the Excel, and this is what it's going to look like. Okay? So here, the tutorial is going to walk you through how do we design a geodatabase before we move on to the software to make it happen and execute it. How do we design a geodatabase logically here first? So you're going to be watching a series of 2 short video walkthrough tutorials to help you fill out these forms.
I found this on the web for some 2 short video walkthrough tutorials.
Okay, sorry about that. My phone is connected to the internet and Siri is acting up. In any case, as I was saying, for this class, follow these 2 short walkthrough tutorials. The author of these tutorials is from GIS Helper, and although these are from 2013, it's the same process. We're just filling out these Excel worksheets. Okay. Just FYI, again, make sure that you get the textbook for the class. Esri only provides the first chapter for free. We don't have the rest of the chapters in PDF format like this one, okay? So make sure that you get the textbook, that you rent it, read through it, but also watch the tutorials. If you get stuck as you are reading through it, the video tutorials are really good to help you get unstuck, okay? Two last comments. When you're working in tutorial 1-1, when you get to steps 7 and 9, you don't have to carry them out on your computer. Just read through them. This is something very specific about the types of naming that is appropriate for some ArcGIS files. But just read through them and you will get the idea. And you don't have to do them on your computer. The video tutorial is gonna do them for us. Okay. And the last thing is you're going to turn in at the end of this lab the completed geodatabase worksheets for tutorial 1-1, and there are 4 questions on page 21 of the instructions, so answer those as well. And then you're also going to complete the geodatabase worksheets for tutorial 1-2. And here we just focus on expanding the geodatabase. In tutorial 1-1, we're going to work with parcels, like property parcels, and who owns them, and if they are residential, commercial, etc. And in tutorial 1-2, we're going to expand the geodatabase to show you how we would create a geodatabase for infrastructure like electricity or water. In tutorial 1-1, we work mostly with lines and polygons. And in tutorial 1-2, we work with lines and points, which are slightly different than polygons, okay? Polygons are basically the squares or components that we build, like property lots. Lines are rivers or streets, and points can be discrete objects in space, like a fire hydrant or a tree, for example. I know that this might sound a little abstract from what we might be used to when we work with GIS, because we might be working with tree populations or agricultural fields or urban blocks with with demographic information, right? But this is how we design the geodatabase from scratch, okay? So be patient. Remember the big picture. We are trying to design a geodatabase from scratch so that when we get our project off the ground, we make less errors and we can expand it easier, okay? Make sure to read the instructions as you're going through the tutorial. And if you have any questions about about any of these new concepts like domains, subtypes, or relationships, they are discussed in the instructions, but I will also be discussing them in other lectures for this module, okay? That's it. If you have any questions, as always, send me a message or see me on Canvas for office hours, okay? Take care, everyone, and have a good week.